A financial disclosure reveals that licensing your name to a digital meme coin is an excellent way to secure $636 million in royalties before the currency itself loses 98% of its value. Wednesday, July 1st, 2026 begins with a nearly unanimous transit strike vote in Austin, a federal fine for Amazon's customer service loop, and a Supreme Court docket that is busy redefining citizenship and political campaign finance. Lambert Woollingham presents this edition of the Daily Shear because while the heat in the airport terminal rises, the paper trail of our collective friction remains remarkably well preserved. We begin with the physical infrastructure of Central Texas, where the machinery is hot, the workers are tired, and the wave pools are currently waiting for someone to pay the bill. Austin's public transit network faces major disruption after bus drivers and mechanics voted 99.5% to authorize a strike. Represented by the Amalgamated Transit Union, the workers employed by subcontractor Keolis approved the action following weeks of stalled contract negotiations over wages and benefits, while transit officials have not released a contingency plan to transport commuters without buses. Union leaders maintain that a strike remains a last resort. It appears the primary advantage of subcontracting public infrastructure is that the city can express surprise alongside the passengers when the buses stop running. We are seeing a continuing escalation in the state-level fight over digital infrastructure as Governor Greg Abbott has joined the growing coalition of rural Texans demanding a ban on new data centers in rural neighborhoods. This marks a shift for state leaders who spent the last decade offering tax incentives to attract these power-hungry hubs. The intervention follows local restrictions, including a moratorium in Hays County and a total ban in San Marcos. With operators refusing to disclose utility consumption to regulators, local authorities must choose between the insatiable demands of artificial intelligence clusters and the needs of residential neighborhoods. When your business model relies on massive resource consumption while keeping the numbers a corporate secret, it is only a matter of time before the neighbors demand to see the meter. The summer season in Travis County has reached its familiar milestone, with reports that the region's first mosquito pool has tested positive for West Nile virus. The infected insects were collected in the West Austin enclave of 78733, proving that even premium real estate cannot escape the damp realities of Texas weather. Health officials have issued warnings, advising residents to drain standing water and wear protective clothing. No human cases have been reported, leaving residents to weigh the risks of the virus against enduring triple-digit heat in protective layers. It is comforting to know that while municipal services face unpredictability, the local insect population remains entirely committed to its schedule. The plan to build a luxury surf park in the landlocked suburbs of Austin has stalled as contractors have filed millions of dollars in mechanics' lines. Construction on the ATX Surf Club has ground to a halt due to unpaid invoices from several construction firms. To resolve the disputes, the developers are scrambling to secure $171 million in infrastructure financing through specialized public utility bonds. While developers remain confident they can secure the funding, the idle excavators stand as a quiet monument to the boundaries of real estate speculation. There is something uniquely local about attempting to solve a lack of ocean waves with a massive public utility bond. Travelers at Austin Bergstrom International Airport are finding the climate inside the Barbara Jordan terminal to be uncomfortably warm. Management blamed the sweltering temperatures on extreme humidity, record passenger volumes, and aging climate control systems. maintenance crews are deploying portable fans, though the terminal continues to struggle. Passengers are advised to dress lightly, hydrate early, and prepare for an experience that feels less like a modern aviation hub and more like a poorly ventilated greenhouse. It turns out the easiest way to prepare passengers for the cramped warmth of an airplane cabin is to make sure the terminal matches it exactly. Our focus turns next to the broader balance sheets of the national economy, where corporate mergers are unraveling, debt restructuring is underway, and identity theft has apparently become a regulatory dispute over administrative paperwork. Dish Network has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection as the satellite television provider attempts to restructure its debt load. The company blamed the filing on delays in finalizing a $23 billion spectrum sale to AT&T, leaving them without the liquidity required to cover obligations. Dish insists its satellite television and Sling TV platforms will continue to operate normally during the restructuring. The company aims to emerge from bankruptcy by the end of the third quarter of 26, though its long-term viability remains highly uncertain. It is a classic corporate maneuver to spend billions building a wireless network, only to find that the cash flow has decided to cut the cord first. The Federal Trade Commission has ordered Amazon to pay $2.25 million to settle allegations that the retailer obstructed identity theft victims. Amazon violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act by refusing to provide victims with transaction records of fraudulent purchases made using their stolen information. Regulators described a runaround where victims were told they could not access details unless they could provide the credentials of the criminals who defrauded them. While the fine is pocket change for an e-commerce giant, the settlement requires Amazon to reform its protocols. The company's customer service department appears to have operated on the principle that the only thing worse than being defrauded is trying to explain it to an automated chatbot. The proposed $3.7 billion consolidation of the stock photo industry has collapsed, with Getty Images terminating its merger agreement with rival Shutterstock. The sudden cancellation comes despite the transaction receiving antitrust clearance from the United States Department of Justice, illustrating the global influence of European regulators. The deal breaker came from the United Kingdom Competition and Markets Authority, which demanded that Shutterstock divest its profitable editorial business, including agencies Splash and Backgrid, to preserve competition. Getty's board decided that absorbing a scaled-back competitor was not worth the compliance headache, sending both platforms back to their independent struggle. Apparently, even stock photo agencies cannot find a stock image representing a successful regulatory approval. We have an update on the federal restrictions surrounding artificial intelligence, as the United States Department of Commerce has abruptly lifted its export controls on Anthropic's advanced Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models, ending a brief national security standoff. The government had ordered the models offline in mid-June over security concerns regarding foreign access, triggering immediate panic in Silicon Valley about lost market share. The restrictions were rolled back after Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick extracted an agreement from Anthropic to proactively detect and address potential vulnerabilities. With obstacles removed, Anthropic is rushing to restore access across major cloud platforms ahead of an anticipated initial public offering. This swift reversal demonstrates that when national security concerns compete with a tech company's commercial timeline, national security is remarkably flexible. President Donald Trump's newly released financial disclosures reveal that his support for digital assets has yielded significant personal financial gains. The 927-page document shows the president earned over $1.2 billion from cryptocurrency ventures last year, outpacing his traditional real estate earnings. Most of this income, totaling $636 million, came from licensing fees paid to CIC Digital LLC for his name on a meme coin that lost 98% of its value shortly after his inauguration. An additional $600 million was generated through token sales via World Liberty Financial. It is an impressive financial achievement to make over $1 billion from a digital asset that now functions primarily as a warning to retail investors. We turn finally to the national political and judicial landscape, where the highest court in the land is delivering a series of major decisions on citizenship, campaign finance, and athletic participation. The United States Supreme Court has ruled 6-3 that the president's executive order attempting to end birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts affirmed that the 14th Amendment guarantees automatic citizenship to almost all children born on United States soil, regardless of their parents' immigration status. The decision blocks a central policy objective of the administration's immigration platform. While the president criticized the ruling, claiming that Congress could override it through ordinary legislation, legal experts noted the ruling establishes an absolute constitutional barrier. It appears the 14th Amendment has once again reminded the executive branch that some clauses are written in ink rather than pencil. In a separate 6-3 ruling decided along ideological lines, the Supreme Court has upheld state-level bans on transgender female athletes competing on school sports teams. Writing for the conservative majority, Justice Brett Kavanaugh rejected challenges to athletic restrictions in West Virginia and Idaho, establishing a significant legal precedent that will protect similar laws across more than half of the country. The decision is a major defeat for civil rights groups who argued the exclusions violated Title IX and equal protection guarantees. The ruling solidifies a major victory for conservative state legislatures that have sought to restrict participation based on biological sex. The Supreme Court has also struck down a restriction on campaign finance, ruling 6-3 that federal limits on coordinated spending between political parties and their candidates violate the First Amendment. The legal challenge, championed by Vice President J.D. Vance, will now allow national party committees to pool unlimited financial resources directly with individual campaigns. Critics warn that it will unleash an unprecedented wave of corporate and donor funding in the upcoming midterm elections, effectively ending campaign finance deregulation battles. The court's decision relies on the familiar theory that speech is money and money is speech, which is a very comforting philosophy for anyone who happens to have a lot of both. The Democratic Party establishment in Colorado has experienced a major electoral upset as 29-year-old Democratic Socialist Melit Quiros unseated 15-term incumbent Representative Diana DeGette. Quiros secured the nomination in Denver's heavily Democratic 1st Congressional District, effectively ending DeGette's 30-year career in the House. The progressive victory mirrors recent primary upsets in New York, driven by grassroots dissatisfaction with long-serving party leadership. The result serves as a direct warning to moderate incumbents in safe urban districts, demonstrating that changing demographics and organised local activism can quickly displace established political careers. A federal judge in Boston has blocked an administration policy that attempted to deny student loan forgiveness to public service workers employed by organizations opposed by the White House. The Department of Education had introduced a rule to narrow the public service loan forgiveness program by disqualifying employees of non-profit organizations deemed to have a substantial illegal purpose. United States District Judge Myong-Joon ruled in favor of a coalition of Democratic-led states, finding that the department's rule was an unlawful attempt to target organizations working on immigration and transgender healthcare. The decision preserves loan eligibility for thousands of workers, stopping the administration from using debt relief as an ideological compliance tool. When you look closely at today's ledger, you realize that the thread connecting all of these events is our collective insistence on using complicated intermediate structures to avoid dealing directly with reality. Consider the simple mosquito of Travis County, which has spent the summer breeding in standing water in 78,733, completely unaware of the public utility bonds or state-level data center bans designed to protect our comfort. We spend $171 million on specialized bonds to build artificial ocean waves in the landlocked suburbs of Austin, while the air conditioning in the actual airport fails because the terminal cannot handle real-world humidity. At the same time, we have created an economy where Amazon requires you to negotiate directly with your identity thief to fix your credit score, and where a meme coin drops 98% in value while generating over $600 million in licensing fees. Even the highest court in the land is busy deciding if money is speech, while local voters in Denver decide that 30 years of seniority is simply an administrative delay. Perhaps we would all be better off if we abandoned the public utility bonds, ignored the meme coins, and spent our energy draining the standing water in our own backyards before the mosquitoes decide to draft their own terms of service. The heat is rising both inside the airport terminal and within the administrative offices where our rules are written. It is best to find some shade and assume that whatever is supposed to be working has already been outsourced to a subcontractor with an offshore mailing address. I am Lambert Woollingham, and I will be spending the afternoon checking my own backyard for standing water and attempting to explain to an automated chatbot why I do not have the login credentials of the insect currently biting my shoulder. The day has been shorn until tomorrow.